Hi, welcome to the H4RL Career Podcast. I'm Jill.
And I'm Dave.
And today we're going to talk about the 10 worst majors for 2022. And we got this information from an article on MSN. And they actually listed 14 majors. But we took what we feel are the top 10 out of those. And the other 4 we think are probably still okay for you to go for, but maybe with some precaution. Maybe just take a second thought before you dive in. So we'll talk about those at the end. But if you like this podcast, make sure you give us a like, subscribe, tell somebody about it. We really appreciate it.
Give a thumbs up.
That's right. And if you are trying to figure out what major you should go into, what career you should do, that's a really tough thing to figure out. There's a lot involved, and our podcast is designed to help you with that. But also, you want to make sure you're really doing your due diligence. You're working through all the steps, all the things you need to think about.
Before you spend a lot of money on that potential degree.
No kidding. That's right. So you can also visit us at h4rl.com. We have a lot of resources there, a whole course if you want to take it for credit, is designed to help you figure out which career is best for you.
And on top of that, you can also ask us questions during our live Q&As or just in the forums, or even just like hit us up on the instant messenger to say, hey, I have some questions, and you get live participation. It's not just an online course, which it is. You can do it at your own pace, but you also get some actual real feedback and a chance to actually interact with real people, unlike a lot of other websites. And it's probably the cheapest one you're ever going to find out there. It is less than the cost of taking your family out to a fast food restaurant nowadays, given how much inflation is hitting. We really are trying to keep it low, but it does cost us money to actually run it. So you're not going to find anything cheaper out there. So you just check us out.
Absolutely. And one membership works for your whole family too. So if you have more than one teen figuring out what to do, you're welcome to make accounts for everybody.
All for the same price.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get started, Dave.
All right. So like I said, we're going to talk about the 10 worst majors. Again, doesn't mean you can't do these things. We're just saying you might want to be a little bit cautious about going into these areas.
There are some issues. So the first one is communications. Now, the biggest issue with communications is actually too broad of a major. And actually, you would be better served in being more specific by maybe going into like journalism or marketing. See, communications is too broad, and some people, your employers out there, might actually be looking for someone with a little bit more of a specific focus for what you're trying to go into. So you might want to steer clear of the broad general communications degree. The next one that we're going to list is fashion design. So the problem here is the market is just oversaturated.
Absolutely.
There are too many people who want to do it, and it's hard to really stand out in the field. So you might want to consider something like writing for the fashion publications, or becoming a buyer or a stylist. You might find an easier way in there.
That's an area that's really hard to get into in the first place. Getting your foot in the door is really hard because it's so competitive. All right, the next one is hospitality. Now, because of the COVID, because of the pandemic, hospitality's boomed up after the fact because we were all cooped up inside for so long. So everybody's like getting out and wanting to explore. I get it. We went on vacation because we wanted to. It's fun to go on trips, and everybody loves to do it. So you think it'd be great to get into this industry. It's actually a boom right now. It's actually kind of high competition. It's kind of competitive to get into it. Unlike communications, this is actually an area where you might want to go more broad and actually get like a business degree. So you can still go into hospitality, like hospitality management, manage a hotel or Airbnb or whatever you want. But in case that doesn't work out for you, you can actually go get another job in a business field outside of hospitality. So you can definitely go into hospitality with a business degree, but you can possibly do something else with it.
Up next is the culinary arts. And the issue here is that you probably just don't really need to pay for a degree. Instead, go to some places around you that you think you might like to work, talk to some people there, and see if you can get some experience. See if you can just jump in and get a job and find some training that way.
Next one up is music. All right, so we all love music. It's great. And a lot of people think about becoming musicians and going on the road and becoming famous, and some people do. Very, 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 very few people actually get to become famous and go on the road and make all that money. Most people with music degrees end up not doing anything with a music degree. Matter of fact, we know someone who got a degree in cello, is an amazing musician. He can play 3 instruments extremely well. And he drives buses. And he actually really enjoys driving buses, by the way. He actually found his niche. He really enjoys doing that, but he doesn't need a music degree to do that job. So he spent all that money in college getting that degree for something he didn't really need to do the career that he was actually really enjoys doing. So really, a music degree would be great as a minor, and actually maybe get another degree in something else that you can actually kind of maybe have a better job, has more job opportunities out there. Maybe like an engineering degree or even like a computer science degree. I actually have heard that people who do music actually make very good coders, by the way, because the logic that you do with music is very similar to the type of logic your brain is structured for doing coding. So that's an idea for you. So you probably want to do music as a hobby or as a minor, and then focus and get a different major as your main focus for your career.
And this next one is kind of related, the performing arts in general. If you want to be an actor in theater or
dancer,
movies, any of those, once again, you don't really need a degree because it's going to cost so much, and that's a field where it's hard to make a lot of money. So you don't want to have this debt from college that you're needing to pay back. So once again, you want to go for experience. Go ahead and go on auditions. See what parts you can get some real world practice and experience. That'll be a much better way to launch your career and not put you in debt.
Exactly. The next one is foreign languages. Now, there are some careers out there, but not a lot. You can possibly be like a concierge or an interpreter for like hospitals or different types of business have interpreters, but there's not a lot of those jobs out there. And so it's hard to get into those jobs. So you might get this degree and you may not actually get your foot in the door in an area that you actually want to use that degree. And you might just have a general degree and then get like another type of job that has nothing to do with foreign languages. Instead, again, you might actually want to go into business. That's another idea, because you could possibly do international business transactions and actually travel internationally doing that type of stuff, and then get that exposure, maybe get a minor in a foreign language that would actually open the door for you to maybe, whether it's Spanish or German or Chinese or whatever you want to do for your international type of business, and that might be a better route for you to go.
Next one up is religious studies. And this is different than if you are trying to become a pastor or something like that. It's not a theology degree or seminary degree. Religious studies is different. And it's a concerning one because, once again, you're paying for this degree, and the jobs you can get with it are not going to really pay enough to make up for that, right?
So you're probably not going to become a pastor if that's what you want to do, or a minister with a religious studies degree. You'd get like a theology degree or go to seminary school, right? This is more broad, like you're just generally studying different types of religions. So you need to make sure you understand the distinction there.
So once again, you may want to look for other training opportunities outside of college, or you might want to consider it as a minor.
Yes. Yep. The next one is exercise studies. Now, exercise is great. It's great for all of us to be able to exercise, and there's a lot of jobs out there for like trainers and in gyms and stuff like that. They don't always pay the most. If you become like a private trainer for like the rich and rich people, yeah, that probably pays pretty well. But you probably are better off actually getting a certificate in this type of field versus going like a 4-year degree or even an associate's degree. I knew people who got their associate's degree and they actually do become like trainers and like, fitness instructors at gyms and stuff. So you don't really need that 4-year degree for this area. You should get some kind of education. You shouldn't just jump into this, because there's a lot to know about the nutrition side of things. There's a lot to know about like understanding people's physical limitations at different ages and what they can and can't do so you don't hurt them. So you should have some kind of training, but probably not a 4-year degree.
And finally, our 10th one is tourism. And the concern here is that this industry is so up and down, especially when you have pandemics going on and potential recessions coming up.
I won't get paid to travel, though.
I'm not sure. Do you really?
Maybe.
Tourism? Yeah. Don't you get paid for other people to travel?
Yeah, you get paid to be in one location, but usually a lot of times they're nice locations.
True. But anyway, the issue here is people are not always going to be spending money traveling, and so your income is going to fluctuate. So you might want to steer clear of this one, or you might want to at least have some savings built up for that rainy day.
I want to say we actually know someone who went into ecotourism, went through the whole, I think it's like a 2-year program. He loved it. He was good at it, I'm sure. He got to go like to Costa Rica and all these fun places because that's what you get to do for ecotourism. And then when he got out of it, he's like, oh, what kind of jobs are you going to get? And he's like, oh, you can't get a job with this. So he knew it. He did it. And he realized he can't get a job with it, but he just did it anyway because it's really fun. So understand that, even people in that degree kind of realize it's really hard to actually get a job and to actually support yourself. So, all right. So those were the top 10. And like I said, there was actually 4 others, like Jill mentioned before, that, we didn't really think were like fit in the same categories as everything else. So we kind of wanted to say this is the last 4 here we're going to talk about. One was criminal justice. Now this is kind of a very broad degree again, all right? And people go into criminal justice a lot of times when they want to go into like law enforcement. The thing is though, a lot of times you don't need to actually have a degree. So if you want to go become a policeman, you should probably go and find out what the requirements are to become an actual police officer. A lot of times you have to go through academy, and you should take like a public test, and you got to get qualified and stuff like that. But many times they don't require an actual college education. So there's no reason to get that debt if that's what you want to do. Now, if you want to do the FBI, they do require a 4-year degree. But again, you might want to go talk to people, because a lot of times it's not criminal justice that they're looking for. They actually hire a lot of engineers, chemistry, and other types of backgrounds, because they have very specific niches that they become specialized in. So again, do your research to figure out what exactly do you want to do, right? Don't just pick a major. Figure out the career you want to do first, and then figure out the best way to get into that career.
Another one of these 4 that we're mentioning as cautionary tales is education. And I get to talk about this one because that was my major. And so education is not a bad degree.
No,
it's not a bad job path. There are jobs available.
We need good teachers. We do need good teachers out there.
Absolutely. It's super important. And so it can be a great option for you. However, the 2 issues can be salary and whether or not you're actually going to like it. So sometimes you may go and take on a lot of debt to get the degree required. Teaching, especially at the beginning of your career, is not going to pay you enough to be covering all of your life expenses and paying that back. So you want to be careful not to take on too much debt. But also, a lot of people leave the profession. And so it's really, really important with education to make sure you really understand what you're getting yourself into. Just because you were a student at one point and you've seen a teacher does not mean you understand what it's really like to be one day in, day out, meetings, staying late, getting there early, taking things home. There's a lot more to it than even just teaching.
And I do want to say, if you're at all interested in becoming a teacher, you should come join our career website, because we got interviews with a music teacher, we have music with a actual classroom teacher, and they tell you the ins and outs, the good and bad. We can't cover all that right now because they're longer interviews, because they tell you everything there is to know about that job. So if this is interesting to you, we're not saying don't become a teacher. She's a teacher. She's a great teacher. I think teachers are very important, but
it's an awesome profession, but it's not perfect.
And by the way, a lot of places require you to get a master's degree nowadays. So
you have to be highly qualified.
You can get your undergrad in something else and then go on to get your master's in education and be better qualified. So. And
it gives you a fallback plan, something else useful.
Absolutely. All right. The next one is this cautionary tale is advertising. All right. So advertising in general, they say, again, this is kind of too broad. They're saying you might want to be more focused and specific, like as in marketing, right? Go into like a marketing area, and because advertising is just too broad. And also, by the way, it's kind of hard nowadays because so many people, you might want to get more like a social media background, because so much stuff is online, understanding that kind of aspect of stuff. So
which that sort of thing you can do through classes, not necessarily a full degree.
Exactly. So marketing definitely has an area. Sales does too, but they really would focus a little bit more on the social media side of things and the online content.
Now, this last one is kind of interesting.
It's a surprise.
Yeah, it's actually computer science.
What? That was one of our top ones.
I know. If you watch our podcast, you know that was, I think, the top.
I think it was the top one.
The top major. We said this is the best one that you should consider. And now here it is on this list. So why?
Well, one of the main reasons why is it's actually getting oversaturated. Because everybody realized, by the way, like, oh, computer science is a great major, right? So then everybody went into it. And guess what? Now there's not as many jobs out there for everybody that has gone into that area. So it's kind of got oversaturated.
So it's still a great major.
Yes.
You can still get a fantastic job.
It may not pay as much as it did before, where there's high demand and low supply, right?
Right. So your salaries may be a bit lower. The competition may be a bit higher.
Especially for those top jobs that pay a lot more money. Like everybody wants to go work for Google and Facebook and stuff. those are going to be a lot more competitive and harder to get into.
Right. So once again, just exercise a little bit of caution. Maybe look at the areas where you want to live and check and see how's the market in those areas.
So
right?
I do want to say, if you're going to go into this area, you probably want to get a specialization. Like you get like a specialization in a certain type of, you get certain specific like certificates in a very special area of like cloud computing or AI and stuff like that. And that would help you stand out a little bit. But again, you shouldn't go into computer science just because everybody's going into computer science. You think it's like the tech and everything's big and blowing up. Go into it if it really fits your needs and fits what you really want to do. I think a lot of people have just gone into it because they figure I can make tons of money and I'll just go do that.
Make sure you're good at it. Make sure you like it.
You might want to take a step back because I don't think there's not as many jobs out there for as many people that have gone into that major.
So there's our list. And again, make sure you visit our site, h4rl.com, because there's a lot more to picking a good career path than just saying, that sounds interesting, and going for it.
Yes.
You can get in trouble that way. So make sure you come see us. We've got a free trial.
Absolutely. You can
so you can get started for free. Check it out.
And even the monthly thing is really not, it's very affordable. It's actually cheaper to do that than it is to take our family of 4 to Chipotle.
Yeah.
All right. It really is per month. And you get all this access plus us, anytime you have questions and live interviews with people actually in the field. Like we have people on there who were actors, right? We have people who you can listen to who is actor. We have even people in there who are computer science backgrounds in case you really want to look into that. So, and if there's anything out there that you're even questioning, by the way, if you get into become a member, we will actually dive in and like if it's something that's not in our database, we'll dive in and help figure out,
we'll do some research.
We'll do some research for you and help you figure out what some of your options are. So, we're here for you.
That's what we do. We love to talk to people about their future plans, their career plans.
Absolutely. So again, check us out at h4rl.com. If you found this at all informative and interesting, please give us a thumbs up, like us, subscribe us, give us 5 stars. Tell people about it, old school way, actually tell, hey, check out this podcast or even check out our website. So
yeah, we really need you to do that for us.
Really appreciate it. Anyway, so that's all we had for today. So until next time, I'm Dave.
And Jill, thanks.